All right. It's 9 o'clock. I'll give maybe 30 more seconds. Got a couple more people coming in. If you have your Bible, we will start Joshua 20. Joshua chapter 20, which we were in last week. And so the handouts that are at the door is Joshua 21 and 22, which I plan to cover this morning. So I plan to get as far as I can in Joshua 22, and then Kristen and I and the boys will leave, I think Friday morning, Thursday night or Friday morning, most likely Friday morning. But anyway, either way, to go to polishing the pulpit. I think it's been a couple of years that Kristen and I have gone. We just have not been able to work it out. Or other years that I could have gone, I couldn't go until Monday, and then Monday to Wednesday or Monday to Thursday. Anyway, we're going this year, so I'll be gone next Sunday. And so Stafford Mitchell, or Mitch, as most people call him, will fill in for me, and I truly appreciate him doing that. So I'm going to try to leave him off to teach beginning of chapter 22 somewhere, probably not the beginning, but somewhere in 22, and then getting into chapter 23 as well. Pretty simple text there. So Joshua chapter 20. Now, let me say this as well before we pick up in our study. We're almost to the end. There are some studies, or there's some books in the Bible that it's really hard to get through a study quickly, to go all the way through it. Some studies can take 4 quarters. I mean, you could take a whole year going through some books. You can go 4 quarters. Other books, maybe like the book of James, you could do in a quarter. So I'm finding the way that I have taught Joshua, because a lot of the text is big chunks of a text. So you have a whole chapter really dedicated to the destruction of Jericho, for example. So, you do a chapter a Sunday. So anyway, what I'm finding out is Joshua, at least the way I taught it, is like a quarter and a half. And so we needed more than 1 quarter, but we're almost to the end of the book, which is fine if I want to, for my own organization, mentally and physically, but to stay as organized as possible, make it to the beginning of the 4th quarter. We may have to figure something out. So basically what I'm trying to say is we may get to the end of the book and then backtrack a little bit. Maybe there are some bigger lessons that we can go back into the book and spend more time talking about. Maybe there are some passages that we could dig a little deeper into, or maybe there's some Hebrew history that we can look at that will help us understand some more of the events in Joshua. So basically, whatever time we have left over in the quarter, we'll figure something out with the book of Joshua. So, with that said, let's go to Joshua 20. Just as a review somewhat of our thoughts last week, Joshua chapter 20 is the cities of refuge. Very different time period. I mean, very different than our world. It's really hard, at least I find it a little difficult to read and completely understand, because we live in a different world, different time, but they did not have what we have today. They didn't have government, they didn't have police forces, they didn't have, just a different time. And so, how do you protect the innocent? How do you protect someone who accidentally kills someone else and it's a complete accident, how do you judge that scenario? How do you judge the situation, and how do you protect the innocent? So if you accidentally kill someone and the family avenges you or the death of the loved one, and so then you accidentally kill someone, and then they come and kill you, and then how do you manage this in that day? And so they were to establish cities of refuge. And so if you accidentally kill someone, now one of the 10 commandments is you shall not murder. Now murder is the intentional taking of an innocent life. Murder, loosely defined, the way I would define it, is the intentional taking of an innocent life. And so what we're talking about here is an accidental taking of a life. If you do something that as a result kills someone else unintentionally, then you were free to flee and find refuge in these cities. They were allowed to protect you and harbor you in the city, and then you would stand trial. They would determine if it was an accident or not. And so the cities of refuge, now they were first commanded over in Numbers 35. And we read about those there, but Numbers 35, this is back with Moses. Numbers 35, beginning in verse 9, then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the children of Israel and say to them, when you cross the Jordan into the land of Canaan, then you shall appoint cities to be cities of refuge for you. So the first time that we read about these cities of refuge is Numbers 35, beginning in verse 9, God speaking to Moses. But now they are actually in the land. They have conquered the land. They are establishing themselves in the land. All 12 tribes have the land divided to them. They have their portion. They are settling into the land. Now, they did not drive out all the inhabitants. They did not drive out all of the pagan Canaanites. That will come back to haunt them later, because God told them to drive everyone out. They did not, and because of that, they will be influenced later with idol worshiping and other sins. But we're not there, and that might be something we would cover as we end the book of Joshua. So the cities of refuge, Joshua chapter 20. Let's notice a few things. The manslayer can flee to the city. There were 6 cities of refuge, 3 on the east of the Jordan, 3 on the west of the Jordan, and they were to stay there. I find this interesting, and I don't really know why. Verse 6, so we're in Joshua 20, verse 6, and he shall dwell in that city, this is the manslayer, until he stands before the congregation for judgment. Now that makes sense. The next part does not, because I don't know how long this would be. You could be there a while. I don't know. Again, verse 6, you shall stand before the congregation for judgment, and until the death of the one who is the high priest in those days. So, the manslayer was to stay there until he stands before the congregation for judgment and the death of the high priest, whoever was the high priest. There was only one high priest. Now, there were priests and only one high priest. And they were to stay in the city until the death of the high priest, which, how long? I don't know. Then the manslayer may return and come to his own city and his own house, to the city from which he fled. And so we have cities of refuge. Let's get into chapter 21. Chapter 21, and we won't spend a lot of time here because this is the tribe of Levi inheriting their cities, their land. They don't have, they did not inherit a land like the other tribes, they inherited the priesthood, but they need somewhere to live. So they will inherit cities within the land of the other tribes. And so I've divided it here for you, or at least laid it out, how many cities the families received in what tribes. So chapter 21, beginning in verse 1, just to get the context. Then the heads of the fathers' houses of the Levites came near to Eleazar the priest. And so if we look at who is represented in this chapter, we have Joshua, we have the Levites, we have Aaron and Eleazar. Aaron is the high priest here. He's the first high priest of Israel, and he was the brother of Moses. And Eleazar will be the second high priest of Israel. He was the son of Aaron and the nephew of Moses. So that's who we have in chapter 21. So they're going to divide, or at least lot out cities to the tribe of Levi here. Let's see, verse 1 again, so I can get my thoughts here. Then the heads of the fathers' houses of the Levites came near to Eleazar the priest, to Joshua the son of Nun, and to the heads of the fathers' houses of the tribes of the children of Israel. And they spoke to them at Shiloh, so they are still in Shiloh. We looked at that a couple weeks ago, in the land of Canaan, saying, the Lord commanded through Moses to give us cities to dwell in. So again, this commandment goes all the way back to Moses, God commanding it to Moses to give the Levites these cities to dwell in among the people. And God will be represented through the Levites, through the priests and the high priest. And the priests will be mediators, in a sense, to the people. God will go through these priests and the high priests, but they'll be scattered throughout the land of the children of Israel here, with their common lands for our livestock. Verse 3, so the children of Israel gave to the Levites from their inheritance at the commandment of the Lord these cities and their common lands. Now the lot came out for the families of the Kohathites and the children of Aaron the priest, who were of the Levites, had 13 cities by lot from the tribe of Judah, from the tribe of Simeon, and from the tribe of Benjamin. So basically, if you would like to spend time reading chapter 21, it just tells you the number of cities in the land that they inherited, the families, the cities. It's just completely devoted to, if we work our way through here, verse 7, the children of, verse 8, the children of, verse 9, so they gave from the tribe of the children of Judah and from the tribe of the children of Simeon these cities. It's the whole chapter. Verse 13, thus the children of Aaron, the priest, they gave Hebron with its common land. Verse 20, and the families of the children of Kohath, the Levites, and the rest of the children of Kohath, even they had the cities of their lot from the tribe of Ephraim, and they gave them Shechem with its common land. And so basically, if you look at your outline over here that passed out, let's walk through the numbers and the cities that they received. So Joshua 21 includes a list of the cities the Levites received. The family of Aaron received 13 cities out of the lands of Judah, Simeon, and Benjamin. The family of Kohath received 10 cities out of the lands of Ephraim, Dan, and Manasseh. The family of Gershon received 13 cities out of the lands of Issachar, Asher, Naphtali, and Manasseh. The family of Merari received 12 cities out of the lands of Reuben, Gad, and Zebulun. The 6 cities of refuge in Joshua 20 were included in the Levites' inheritance. And again, there were 3 on the east and 3 on the west. In total, the Levites received 48 cities with their surrounding pasture or common lands. So Joshua 21 concludes by stating that God kept all his promises to Israel and gave them victory over all the enemies that they encountered during their conquest of the Promised Land. Now, I will raise this question, or not much of a question as much as it is a statement. There are some today who suggest that Israel still is waiting for God to give them the rest of their land, that they haven't received it yet. But that's not the case as we conclude chapter 21. They've received all of it. God gave them everything he promised. They've conquered the land. The 12 tribes received their portion of the land. The Levites received their cities and the common pastures to raise their livestock. And they gave. And so let's pick up, before we get into chapter 22, let's pick up in verse 43. So 43, 44, and 45 are the last three verses of chapter 21, and this is what it says. So the Lord gave to Israel all the land which he had sworn to give to their fathers. There you go. So if you believe the Bible, you believe the Bible. And they took possession of the land and dwelt in it. The Lord gave them rest all around, according to all that he had sworn to their fathers. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob would be the fathers. And not a man of all their enemies stood against them. The Lord delivered all their enemies into their hand. Not a word failed of any good thing which the Lord had spoken to the house of Israel. All came to pass. And so that's a pretty good summation of God keeping his promise and Israel receiving what was owed them. They now live in the land. They dwell in the land. They have this prosperous, rich, good land to live in. And as long as they will remain faithful to God, God will remain faithful to them. As long as they pursue righteousness and flee idolatry, God will be with them. God will protect them. God will stand against their enemies. But whenever they allow the pagans and the others, idolatrous people in the land to influence them, they will fall. They will fall. They will go into captivity. They will be conquered. But at least here at the end of Joshua 21, everything is as God promised. So then we get into chapter 22. Very interesting chapter. Something happens that I feel like we can relate to, because what happens in 22 is miscommunication or jumping to conclusions, and Israel almost goes to war against itself because those on the eastern side of the Jordan do something that when those on the western side, they hear only kind of partial part of the information. They jump to conclusions, and then they're about to go fight those on the eastern side. And so you're in chapter 22, Israel's on the brink of just fighting against each other because those on the west don't understand what they did on the east. And it's an interesting chapter. So, getting into it, chapter 22, remember that you have 2.5 tribes on the east side of the Jordan. And I don't know how many times I've said that. But the men that were able to fight were required to go to the western side and to help fight and conquer the land. Now that everything is done, now that everything is settled, now that all of the land and the cities have been divided, those men are to go back to the eastern side, to their land, to their families. And when they do, they're going to erect a memorial. And the reason behind it is fine. Nothing wrong within what they did. But when those on the west hear about it, they think it's an idol to worship. And that wasn't what those on the eastern side erected it for. That's not what the purpose of it was for. And so you have this almost a war between Israel here. Now, beginning in verse 20, chapter 22, verse 1. Then Joshua called the Reubenites, the Gadites, and half the tribe of Manasseh, and said to them, now what we're going to have the first half here, or at least the first several verses, not the half, but the first several verses is Joshua basically commending these 2.5 tribes that came over and helped fight. He's going to commend them, but he's also going to admonish them and encourage them to stay faithful to God. Go back over to your side on the eastern side, but stay faithful to God. No matter what you do, stay faithful to God. So it's this beautiful speech to these 2.5 tribes, these men. Go stay faithful to God. And that's what we have here for several verses. Verse 2, and he said to them, you have kept all that Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded you, and have obeyed my voice in all that I commanded you. You have not left your brothers these many days up to this day, but have kept the charge of the commandment of the Lord your God. See, he's praising them, for lack of a better word. He's congratulating, I don't know a better word, but he's thanking them for their faithful service. Verse 4, and now the Lord your God has given rest to your brethren, and he, as he promised, now therefore return and go to your tents and to your land and to your possession, which Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave you on the other side of the Jordan. And so, thank you for your service. You were faithful, you were brave, you were strong. Imagine if you're a father. Imagine if you're, away from your wife, your children. Imagine your family that you left behind. And now you can return. But then he gives them this warning, or it's a warning, or it's an admonition. Verse 5, but take careful heed to do the commandment and the law which Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded you, to love the Lord your God, to walk in all his ways, to keep his commandments, to hold fast to him, to serve him with all your heart, with all your soul. Now, what can we take from that? I don't have to expand on that a whole lot. What can we take from that? Well, the same thing. To live our lives the same, to keep the commandments, to hold fast to him, to serve him. Right? Joshua is not going to be there every step of the way now to lead them, to watch over them. He's on the western side, and they're returning back to the eastern side. And so go to your family, live your life, but be faithful to God. Verse 6, so Joshua blessed them and sent them away, and they went to their tents. Now, to half the tribe of Manasseh, Moses had given a possession in Bashan, but to the other half of it, Joshua gave a possession among their brethren on this side of the Jordan westward. And indeed, when Joshua sent them away to their tents, he blessed them and spoke to them, saying, return with much riches to your tents, with very much livestock, with silver, with gold, with bronze, with iron, and with very much clothing. Divide the spoil of your enemies with your brethren. And so obviously they took from the cities of the pagans to use the bronze, the gold, the silver, and it was a very rich land, and this is part of that richness. Verse 9, so the children of Reuben, the children of Gad, and half the tribe of Manasseh returned and departed from the children of Israel at Shiloh, which is in the land of Canaan, to go to the country of Gilead, to the land of their possession, which they had obtained according to the word of the Lord by the hand of Moses. So, first 9 verses, pretty simple, pretty easy. These men, they return home to their tribes, to their families, and they inherit their land there. And everything, I mean, imagine the rest. Imagine the rest. Can you imagine being Israel, and we go all the way back to the beginning of Joshua, and they have not conquered any of the land. And they've conquered the land. Imagine the wars, the fighting. Remember the time that Joshua marched all night long? I wasn't here to teach that. I think that's in Joshua chapter 10. That was Greg who filled in for me to teach. And they marched all night long to battle. And it's been 5 to 7 years. Imagine this moment of rest. It's done. They can go home. They can go to their families. And they can rest. It's the land that God promised to give to them. Now, very similarly, but on a spiritual level, think about it for you and me. The land of rest for us, it's not the land of Canaan, but we do sing a song, I'm marching to the land of Canaan, or to Canaan's land I'm on my way. So there is a place of rest for us. But it's heaven. Imagine the rest that heaven holds for us. There's a passage in Revelation, I can't remember the passage, that blessed are those who die in the Lord, for they shall receive rest, right? But just going back to Joshua, the Israelites, they've conquered, they've fought, they've battled, they've warred. Now there's rest. Picking up in verse 10, here we have the beginning of the conflict. And when they came to the region of the Jordan, which is in the land of Canaan, the children of Reuben, the children of Gad, and half the tribe of Manasseh built an altar there by the Jordan, a great impressive altar. Now, well, let's keep reading before... Let's get more of the context. Verse 11, now the children of Israel heard someone say, actually, let's pause right there. So they built an altar. Now, at this point, we don't know for what. We don't know why. However, you have 2.5 tribes on the east side of the Jordan. So if you are part of the 2.5 tribes, I mean, half of a tribe of Manasseh. So imagine being half of a tribe of Manasseh and the other half on the other side of the Jordan. So if you can try to put yourself in a mental state and imagine being the 2.5 tribes on the eastern side of the Jordan, you might feel like, because there's only 2.5 tribes and everyone else is on the other side, you might feel like they will forget about you, or that you are not a part of them because you're divided by this body of water, the Jordan. I think that's very reasonable, or at least I feel like that's logical, that you want to make sure that either you don't forget about the 9.5, or the 9.5 do not forget about you. And so you're going to erect this altar as a reminder that you, as 2.5 tribes, are part of the 12. So basically, it's just going to be an altar, not to worship, but as a reminder that you are part of the 12. Although you are separated by a body of water, you're still included with the other 9.5. So it is a visual representation to remind them that they are just as important as the other 9.5. Very innocent, in my opinion. Nothing wrong with it. We don't read anything in here that they shouldn't have done this. It was a simple reminder to them so that they don't forget. That's fine. However, when those on the western side hear about it, and verse 11 kind of alludes to the beginning of these assumptions. Verse 11, now the children of Israel heard someone say, there it is, heard someone say. What do we call that? Huh? Gossip, or we might say hearsay. Well, that's what it is, hearsay. You heard someone say. And their information is either going to be incorrect or it's just partial information. And so based on this report, those on the western side are going to jump to conclusions, and they are going to prepare themselves to go and battle those on the western side, or the eastern side. So, verse 11, now the children of Israel heard someone say, behold, the children of Reuben, the children of Gad, and half of the tribe of Manasseh have built an altar on the frontier of the land of Canaan in the region of the Jordan, on the children of Israel's side. And when the children of Israel heard of it, the whole congregation of the children of Israel gathered together at Shiloh to go and to war against them. I mean, Matt, I was listening this week to someone, I can't remember who it was now, but it was a sermon based off of Joshua 22 here, and he brought out the application that when Israel here, I forget how he worded it. Basically, he made the comparison that when congregations, so let's make the application for today. When congregations forget who the enemy is, then they start warring against each other, as we see Israel's about to do here. What has taken place is everything is they've conquered the land of Canaan. They technically now have no enemy, although there are some still left in the land. But everything is kind of good right now, and they're about to fight each other. Now they don't. It stops before they do. But if we think about the church today, sometimes we forget who the enemy is. And most of our war, or most of our fight is with each other. And you have congregations fighting each other, or this congregation fighting that congregation, or you just have a congregation among itself and the members just fighting each other because we've lost sight of who the real enemy is. And also in that sermon, he went on to say, but don't think that the world is the enemy. The world is not the enemy. It's not the church versus the world. Sometimes I've even thought that the world is the enemy, but the world is not the enemy. The world is full of people who need the saving gospel of Jesus Christ. That's not the enemy. They are lost and they are dying. That's not the enemy. The enemy is Satan. Now, he lies, he deceives. He's the enemy. But oftentimes, if the congregation focuses too much on if we turn our focus inward and forget who the enemy is, sometimes, like we see the children of Israel here, they war against each other. I don't know if that application came across like he made it. He did a better job. I know I can't remember who I was listening to, but I was in the office listening, and it was really good. Anyway, Israel's about to fight here. Verse 13, then the children of Israel sent Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the priest, and to the children of Reuben. So before they fight, they send Phinehas to bring back report. Sent Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the priest, to the children of Reuben, to the children of Gad, and to the half-tribe of Manasseh into the land of Gilead. And with him 10 rulers, one ruler each from the chief house of every tribe of Israel. And each one was the head of the house of his father among the divisions of Israel. Then they came to the children of Reuben, to the children of Gad, and to the half of the tribe of Manasseh. So these men went to hear what is happening and what this altar meant and represented. And to the half tribe of Manasseh, to the land of Gilead, and they spoke with them, saying, Thus says the whole congregation of the Lord, what treachery is this that you have committed against the God of Israel, to turn away this day from following the Lord, and that you have built for yourselves an altar, that you might rebel this day against the Lord. Now, I will have to say, I kind of appreciate the rest of Israel taking this so seriously. Now, to go and war against them, I don't know if that was their own thoughts. It doesn't seem to be commanded of God. They do seem to jump to conclusions. However, on the other side of that, they're taking it very seriously because they have just eradicated the land from these pagans who were idol-worshiping people, and now they, from the other side of the Jordan, they seem to think that these 2.5 tribes are building altars. So they go to them, they talk to them, and they take it seriously. So I do appreciate that. Verse 17. In the iniquity of Peor, not enough for us, from which we were not cleansed till this day, although there was a plague in the congregation of the Lord, but that you must turn away this day from following the Lord. And it shall be, if you rebel today against the Lord, that tomorrow he will be angry with the whole congregation of Israel. Let me pause right there for just a moment. So, what they are arguing for here is that if these 2.5 tribes rebel against God, there will certainly be consequences for all of Israel. Because when Achan sinned, and we're going to get there in verse 20, they're going to reference Achan, and how when Achan sinned, there were consequences for all of Israel. And there were more people who died, and not just Achan. And we'll reference back to that in Joshua 7 when Israel went up to Ai, and there were 36 men who died. And so Achan's sin had consequences that caused others to die. And so basically the argument here for those that came to these 2.5 tribes is if you rebel against God, the wrath of God will come upon all of Israel. Just like when Achan died, and others died as well. So let's back up and read it with that in mind. Verse 18, but that you must turn away this day from following the Lord, and it shall be, if you rebel today against the Lord, that tomorrow he will be angry with the whole congregation of Israel. So if these 2.5 tribes again rebel, it doesn't seem as though God's going to punish the 2.5 tribes, but Israel as a whole. Verse 19, nevertheless, if the land of your possession is unclean, then cross over to the land of the possession of the Lord, where the Lord's tabernacle stands, and take possession among us. But do not rebel against the Lord, nor rebel against us by building yourselves an altar besides the altar of the Lord our God. Now here's the reference, verse 20, to Achan. Did not Achan the son of Zorah commit a trespass in the accursed things, and wrath fell? Now here's the context of what he's saying with Achan. And wrath, because of the sin of Achan, and wrath fell on all of the congregation of Israel. And so because Achan sinned, it caused others to die as well. And that the man did not perish alone in his iniquity. And so the sin of Achan had consequences for others. If we go to Joshua chapter 7, beginning in verse 1, but we're not going to read it. They're going up against the people of Ai to war against them there. Dropping down to verse 5, and the men of Ai struck down about 36 men of Israel, for they chased them from before the gate as far as Shebarim, and struck them down on the descent. Therefore the hearts of the people melted and became like water. And so these men, let's see, who do we have here? We have Phinehas, and we have 10 men from the rulers, 10 rulers, 1 ruler from each of the chief house, verse 14. So these men on the east side, talking to these 2.5 tribes, why have you turned away from the Lord so quickly? Why have you erected this altar? Why? If you rebel against God, it's not going to just be you that's punished, but all of Israel that's punished. And a very vivid, very fresh memory in their mind is the sin of Achan, and how when Achan sinned, yes, Achan died, but others died as well, as the wrath of God came upon all of Israel. 36 men in Ai died as well as a result. But then we have the 2.5 tribes and their response. Here's where we learn what the meaning of the altar is. Then the children of Reuben, the children of Gad, and half the tribe of Manasseh answered and said to the heads of the divisions of Israel, the Lord God of gods, the Lord God of gods, the Lord God of gods, He knows, and let Israel itself know if it is in rebellion or if in any treachery against the Lord. Do not save us this day. If we have built ourselves an altar to burn, turn from the Lord, or if to offer on it burnt offerings of grain offerings, or if to offer peace offerings on it, let the Lord Himself require an account. But in fact, we have done it for fear for a reason, saying, in time to come, your descendants may ask to our descendants, saying, what have you to do with the Lord God of Israel? For the Lord has made the Jordan a border between you and us, you children of Reuben and children of Gad. Hold on, did I miss something? Verse 25. For the Lord has made the Jordan a border between you and us, you children of Reuben and children of Gad. You have no part in the Lord. So your descendants would make our descendants cease fearing the Lord. Therefore we said, let us now prepare to build ourselves an altar, not for burnt offerings, nor for sacrifice, but that it may be a witness between you and us and our generations after us, that we may perform the service of the Lord before Him with our burnt offerings, with our sacrifices, and with our peace offerings, that your descendants may not say to our descendants in time to come, you have no part in the Lord. Basically, that the 9.5 tribes, their descendants, will not forget about and reject the 2.5 tribes on the other side and their descendants. So when everyone who knows what happened and lived through the conquering of the land of Canaan, they know and they can tell their children. But for generations in the future, when everyone else dies and no one is living that was alive in the time of Joshua conquering the land, that this side 9.5, they don't forget and reject the 2.5 on the other side. It is a altar of remembrance. Verse 28, therefore we said that it will be when they say this to us or to our generations in time to come, that we may say, here is the replica of the altar of the Lord which our fathers made, though not for burnt offerings nor for sacrifices, but it is a witness between you and us. There it is. It is an altar of witness oh, wow. Did not realize what time it was until I saw about it in the foyer. So they built an altar of witness. Again, to remember what God did for Israel, and that the 2.5 are a part of the 9.5. And it seems as though this altar is a replica of the altar that they built as they crossed over the Jordan that God required. And this altar was a replica of that altar, so that as a whole, no one forgets what God did for them. I'm going to have to stop there. It's 9:46. Again, Stafford Mitchell will pick up for me next Sunday as I'm at PTP, and I know he'll do a great job. So appreciate your attention.